Okay, I'm not a furry, but... Good evening, everybody. My name is Overall, and thank you for tuning in. I don't have much time, so I'll get right to the point. Werewolves. I'm actually writing a romance story with werewolves. That's almost like a Hallmark movie, but not. But that's for another day. For now, I'm going over the Modern Werewolf. Yes, I am calling it that because I looked and I have no idea what it's officially called, so I'm going to be coining that term, Modern Werewolf! I'll also be discussing the differences between this form of werewolf and the various other forms that have been shown in cinema, video games, and literature. I will also be discussing what the werewolf means in a story, how it reflects on us as people, and our inner nature. Start that timer, because we got a lot to go through. Let's go! Origins! Who doesn't love a good origin story? So far, the earliest documentation of a man-to-wolf transformation is from the Epic of Gilgamesh, where a man was cursed to be a wolf because, and I quote from History.com, and I'm not making this up, Gilgamesh jilted a potential lover because she had turned her previous mate into a wolf. Nice. Ever since then, the werewolf has evolved in how it's presented. The modern werewolf is presented as a bulking beast, typically male, with the most monstrous of the werewolf forms in comparison to the lycanthrope, wolfman, and the simple wolf form. Making a Roanoke gaming reference, we're going to start at the feet of the beast, and it is often represented to stand on the ball of the foot. And as we move up on the beast, we find that the legs would also often be digitigrade. Clawing our way up some more, the modern werewolf has a major increase in body mass and muscle, and sharp claws to slice and dice their prey. They also have a tail that is for looks most of the time, but could serve a purpose in the plot depending on how they write it. I think the tail is kinda cute, not gonna lie. Finally, the head, a benchmark for the form as it's just a wolf's head that, if needed, can also express emotion, such as rage or sorrow depending on the director or writer's vision. Mostly rage. According to The Essential Guide to Werewolf Literature by Brian J. Frost on page 106, there were those in the crowd post-World War II sphere that the story of the monstrous beast had, quote, run its course, end quote. But there was a phenomenon of sorts, as there was a surge of fantasy writers at the time that created interest for the monster, and would be fueled by the release of The Wolfman in 1941. If I were around back then, I probably would have laughed at the idea of a werewolf fading into obscurity, as they have so much storytelling potential. Then again, if I was around back then, I would have had an abusive husband, but who cares, lol! The modern werewolf falls under 2 of the 7 theses from Monster Culture, The 7 Theses, by Jerffery Jerome Cohen. If you get the chance, give it a read, as it's very useful for examining different monsters. The first thesis that the modern werewolf falls under is the 4th thesis, where the monster dwells at the gate of difference. Monsters that fall under this thesis are often representations of marginalized groups, and could be used as a scapegoat for problems of a town. Like Salem, when the women were thought to be witches, rather than investigating further before coming to a conclusion. Turned out to just be doped up bread. The modern werewolf falls under this, as it could have been used to point the finger in the direction of somebody who just happened to be hairy, or is suspected of being a cannibal. The second thesis that the modern werewolf falls under is the 6th, where the beast represents a desire that we hold and our fear of that desire. The werewolf could represent our desires to let out our sexual frustration, tap into our hunting instincts, or just go apeshit. As for my thoughts on the beast, I believe the werewolf represents the most carnal desires that reside in all of us, and what would happen if we unleashed those desires onto the world or on unsuspecting victims. However, we all had the restraint to not act upon those desires and pursue our willing prey that would love to participate in the hunt. I also believe it warns against our nature as animals. While it is beautiful, it can be terrifying to those who don't understand it, much like how we didn't understand certain cultures and sought to destroy them. Think of the colonials and Native Americans. Yep. That was not fun. Okay, time! Okay. I tried to do that as quickly as possible. Seriously, I can make a video about werewolves for just a half an hour. These beasts are just so fun to cover. I really hope that I get a second chance to talk about them some more. It'd be so fun. Now that the video essay is done, I can relax and not sound like Ben Shapiro. The only differences between him and I is that I actually have decent arguments. Before I officially end this video, I want to thank you for getting to the end. Did you enjoy it? Would you like to hear more about my thoughts on monsters? Maybe you were just here for the Source Filmmaker videos that they make. I don't know. Whatever you're here for, make sure to like the video and subscribe. Until then, I'm Orbital Audio, and I'm going to perform a magic trick. I'm going to disappear for another few months. Goodbye! Making a Roanoke gaming effort. And as we move up the beast, we find that the legs would often be digitigrade. As we move up the beast, we find that the legs would also be often werewolves. I'm actually writing a romance with werewolves that's almost like a Hallmark movie, but not. It's a long story. I should probably finish writing it before I give a valid description. I should probably cut this. Cut. Here we go. So far, the earliest documentation of a man-to-wolf transformation is from the Epic of Gilgamesh. Yeah. Again, if I was around back then, I would have had an abusive husband, but who really cares? Oh jeez, that got dark. As for my thoughts on the beliefs, however, we all had the restraint to not act upon those desires and pursue our willing prey that would love to participate in the hunt. I'm looking at you. You know who you are. You know it. Oh, okay. I'm recording and Maggie May is watching me. Hi girl, how you doing? Are you a good girl? You're a good girl. Yes you are. Speaking of wolves. I also believe it warns against our nature as animals. While it is beautiful, it can be terrifying to those who understand.